Happy Friday, everybody. Got a special guest coming on. Let's see if we can get him in. He is in, I think, the Grand Canary Islands right now, somewhere in the world. So let's see if he has access here. Morning again, Matt. Bear with me for a minute. I got a special guest coming on. Actually, I think you'd really like this guy. If we can figure out the technology here. Matt, are you in class right now? All right, I think he's coming. 1 second. If you guys are watching this and it's not live, just fast forward till you see Jim on the screen. I should just do his introduction right now. Come on, Jim. Any second. Matt, you got to let me know when you come home. Get some hypnosis stuff on you. I've learned a lot since I worked on you last year. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and introduce him, even if he's not on yet. So my guest today is a very special friend who is in my mastermind group, M1, with me. He is a world-traveling entrepreneur. He left everything behind to travel the world, took various jobs, is now an amazing business and entrepreneurial coach, and really took a chance just to live his dream, and that was to travel the world as a nomad. He's one of the funniest guys I know, totally free to be himself, has a great sense of humor, and just kind of allows everyone to be a little bit goofy and to have fun in a way that most people don't. So I want to get him on here and have him talk about going after your dreams and living the life that you choose instead of someone else picks for you. There he is. All right, Jim, I'm adding you. Sign in, buddy. Connecting. Here we go.
There we go.
Boom. God, you are looking good.
That's a good point.
I already did my introduction a little bit for you. So I'm super excited today to talk to you about a couple different things. Again, this is my buddy Jim Hughes. He's a world-traveling entrepreneur, coach, class clown. What else can I say about you, Jim?
I don't know. Stud.
Stud, yeah, I forgot that.
Yeah.
He's a hand model as well. So, Jim, I want to start off by talking about how you had this dream to live a life that most people put on, someday in the future they think about, and you just took the chance and did it. So I guess what was your dream life that you pursued?
My to set the scene, I was living in. There's a lot of feedback. I don't know if that's me or you. I was living in Australia, running an engineering business. Had us sort of slowly getting more and more miserable, and the passion and fulfillment had kind of gone and was leaving me somewhat. And then I'd been exploring ideas for ages. I've always loved to travel, but I've always lived, not always, but since the age of 21, I've lived overseas. I was in Whistler for 5 years, then Australia for 5 years. So I've always liked that travel and exploration. And then, one morning I was like, hang on, something's got to change here. But I wasn't the same employee or boss that I was before, and I wasn't anywhere near as fulfilled. So I was like, shit, something's got to change. So just decided I think I was driving to work one morning, and I just had an epiphany to just pack everything in and start a business and start traveling around the world. I then convinced myself throughout the working day that that was the one and only option that we could possibly take. So then I got home and sat my girlfriend at the time down and said, I've got a plan. How about... and thankfully she agreed on the spot, because I don't know what I would have done, because I'd spent the last 8 hours convincing myself that was the only option. So
Yeah. Cool. So I
Yeah.
spend a lot of time with my guests talking about, more psychological strategy, how to overcome fears and limitations that keep us in a box. And so this is going to be a little more unconventional, but in a way, you've done that exact same thing with yourself, right? You had a vision for yourself. You weren't fulfilled. You had the balls to take some action and put yourself out there. And I know it's been the most rewarding experience of your life. So if you want to tell us since then, kind of some of your adventures, how fulfilled you are, what you're up to now as far as traveling goes.
So I'm currently in Gran Canaria in the Canary Islands, which is about 200 kilometers from the west coast of Morocco. Been here since June. I'm looking out. I can see the sunshine and the hills on the mountain side with the town on the side, which is an awesome view. In a co-living place, and this year we have lived in Mexico for 3 months, swimming with sharks and free diving through the cenotes through underwater caves, spear fishing, and then we did some couple of weeks in Cuba. And then last year we started in March, so we did 11, visited 11, but lived in like 9 of those countries last year. So Thailand, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, USA, Canada, Malta, Switzerland, England. Probably a couple I'm forgetting there, but yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot, and I needed a new bucket. My bucket list adventure was overflowing, so I needed a new one. It was really cool.
Yeah, you're the king of that, and you're always doing awesome stuff at these locations as well. So what advice would you have to someone who's either got a corporate job or they're an entrepreneur of some sort, and they love what you're doing, they love your lifestyle, but maybe they're afraid to take the leap and go all in, or I know you talk about going halfway in and just trying it. What advice would you have to those people?
Well, I've actually just talked about this at a couple of events I've been speaking at recently, and I've developed a bit of a theory around it, because not everybody's the same. I mean, some people have a higher risk tolerance than others. For me, I didn't perceive what I did as a risk.
Right.
Just like, it wasn't me being brave, I just literally didn't perceive it as a risk. So I'm not trying to be more sort of heroic here, but for some people it is a big risk. And I thought, well, what's the worst that can go wrong? I'll just go back to a job and start again with slightly less money, having had an amazing time anyway.
Yeah.
But I know other people don't have the same luxuries. They don't have maybe not the same cash in the bank. They may have a family. So I try and approach it from a theoretical way of looking at it, which is, I call it unbalancing the scale. So in order to change a status quo, in order to basically change your behavior, change your lifestyle, change your habit, you've not only got to realize the costs of the status quo, you've then got to realize the awesomeness and the brilliance and the value in the new thing. So, at the moment, most people, if this is a set of scales and like somebody's in the corporate world, or they're running a business they don't love, and they're kind of 5 out of 10, they're 6 out of 10, they never really get mega honest with themselves. They kind of go, yes, it's fine. And that's just they're fine, because they know there's too many risks and unknowns or whatever, so they convince themselves they're a 5 and a 6 out of 10. And then the other side of it, like the lifestyle I may lead, for example, they never fully immerse into it. They don't know that many people who are in it. It's something other people do, so it just looks like that would be cool, but it's not viable. That's maybe an 8. And if anyone's familiar with software, watching or listening to this, if you're going to sell software to somebody, your software has to be 10 times better than the incumbent software for people to bother switching. There's unknowns, there's the migration costs, there's the risks, there's all that stuff. They're just the better the devil you know. It's amazing what people will put up with in order to just not take the risk of finding that new thing. So you've got to make sure that the new thing is, at least in your head, perceived 10 times better than the current status quo. So you've got to balance the scales. You've got to be honest with yourself and say, is what I'm doing really aligned with me? Is it what I love to do? Does it make the most of my vision, my skills, my passions, my energy? Is it fulfilling me? Are my kids happy? Is my husband or wife happy? and then say, okay, that's the one side. So we've lowered the scales on one side. Now let's look at the other side and then fully immerse ourselves in that, at least in that world of people who are doing it. Speak to people, learn from people. Those perceived risks, let's sort of debunk those myths, and let's get clarity over what the risks might actually be and some steps I can take to actually start it and see if it works. And then all of a sudden the scales start to tip, and as Tony Robbins would say, your wants turn into musts. And that's when you can take action.
Yeah. So one of the simple principles of coaching is pain and pleasure, right? Everybody responds to pain and pleasure, and so if someone's on the brink and everything's fine, right? They're not motivated to move. But if you can make their current situation seem painful, and maybe bring the pain of continuing that out into the future right into the present, and then take the pleasure of traveling the world and experiencing new things and hanging out with people like you, and make that like all the little textures of that in the present moment, then the pain and pleasure, that kind of gets switched, and they're like, oh, I'm living this life that isn't my choosing. My mom wanted me to get this job, and then the pleasure of making that change happens, and and then you're free.
Huge.
Yeah,
it's huge, and we both look at the same thing. We both do it in different ways, but and people are, the studies that shown for years and years and years that people are more motivated to avoid the pain side of things than they are to draw into the pleasure side of things. But one thing I did was, like, I looked into it, I listened to podcasts, I read books. It was like, oh, it's not just something other people do. And then I could just imagine myself doing that, and I imagine myself like in a co-living place like this, having a Skype call like this, in the sunshine, and then this evening going out to Old Town and having some beers in an amazing historical place. And then the more you can visualize that and make it real, the more you can then, when you step back into what you're currently doing, you go, well, this is this is distinctly average to be. I don't know what time of day. Well, it's early in the morning for you guys, so I won't swear. And then you go, right. And so that's what I did. It just became a must. It was like, this is going to happen, and I cannot imagine a life where I'm not doing that.
So your vision, right? Your vision, and you emotionalized it, and it started to become a reality. And I see you spearfishing and skydiving and like skiing or doing all these amazing things around the world. And now I have the emotion of that. I get to hang out with you in Canada a couple weeks ago, and you're like, dude, it's easy. You could do this. And I'm like, shit, I could do this, right? And then that possibility becomes more pleasure, and my current situation becomes more painful, and that's what facilitates that change. And so now I'm thinking about, all right, what would that look like if I did it? Which, as you know, is so important to hang out with the right people, because now you are playing in such a big way, like bigger than anybody I know in this area, and just taking chances and doing things, making stuff happen. And that creates a shift in my brain as well. And hopefully,
100%.
I had that to you as well. And that's the power of the peer group and the tribe and all that stuff.
Yeah, it massively does. And like I made some online content for a company yesterday, and one of the things I was saying, if you're going to do one thing to get closer to your goals, even if you don't have any goals yet, you just know you want to improve or do something better, to just change your environment. Make sure you're hanging around with the right people. It's absolutely massive. And yeah, like with you, I mean, what is it? It's the cost of a flight from the States to where I am in Gran Canaria. I'm in a spare room here. There's like 3 spare rooms. It costs bugger all to live here. Beer's like $1 or €1. So, hang out for a week, put your business on hold for a week, or outsource some tasks, sample it.
Yep.
Don't pack everything in, sample it, see what it's like, see if it works, and then you're tipping the scales even further because you're absorbing it, and then you're living in this place with other people who do it full time, and you go, that's cool. And then you go back to the Midwest, and then you go, oh, it's snowing here.
Yeah, right. Or it's freezing rain, or So let's talk about how you make this work. What's you're the untamed entrepreneur, and you really live your life untamed. So actually, let's talk about other people's expectations of you, because I think you do such an amazing job of just being yourself, being funny, being goofy, and being uninhibited, right? And really untamed. And you give everyone around you that permission. And it's such an amazing thing. So is that something that you've always done? Is it something you do on purpose? Or are you just really free to be you?
That's a good question. I didn't realize I had, somebody put it to me when I was about 22. And she said, you have like a gift or an ability or just a natural tendency to break other people's barriers down. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point, and I love doing that, and I did it unconsciously for ages. And now sometimes I target certain people, and I just love to break their barriers down, especially if I think there's a facade,
Yes.
especially if there's a bit of alpha male, if there's any way you know, stop taking yourself too seriously.
Yes.
It's life is way too short. There's way more fun that you can be had when you start acting like a bit of a dickhead. But like I don't know how. I mean, it's sort of I'm aware that I'm doing it now. But it's not something I ever have to try and force out. It's there anyway, and I don't know where it comes from. It's just, I mean, my dad especially was always, you know, don't try and fit in. Why on earth would you try and fit in? Like, be yourself. And they've never forced me down any kind of avenues, which has been really awesome.
So that's awesome because, you know, our programs growing up, we're always programmed, most of us, to fit in. Oh, you have to get this job. Oh, you know, and when we're 7, you know, I'm a hypnotist, and when we're like up to 7, we're in mostly theta brainwave state, which is just, we're taking in information and making it a program in our subconscious. We can't even filter it. And so most of us come out of that and we have this trauma for the rest of our lives where we think we have to fit in a box. And it sounds like your parents gave you a program like, hey, get outside the box. You live that way. And then you give other people an extreme emotional event to get outside of their box as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to claim for 1 second that I'm like the loosest, most, you know, out the box left field thinker. I mean, I still wear normal clothes. I still am conscious of what people think of me.
You don't always wear normal clothes. You don't even always wear normal clothes. So I'm not going to give you that much credit.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, you did see me on stage in a skirt. Or it wasn't a skirt, it was a bandana as a skirt. I thought it looked good.
It did. And then we went
it made it in Lobos look good anyway.
You had your thong on when we went swimming in that ice cold water as well.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, but in lots of areas, lots of ways, I am, you know, normal. I'm not somebody, because I'm careful of putting myself on a pedestal of being this like, whoa, completely left field. I just like having fun and being a bit of a dick. And you know, if I can help other people do that, then that's, as I've gotten into this business more, I've realized that is so much at the heart of my mission, is to try and help people align themselves and their business with who they are and really what they want to do. And I love just like digging into that when people say, yeah, I kind of do my business because of this, I would love to do that, but, and I love digging in behind those. I was going to say digging in behind the butts, but that would come across wrong.
I let that fits for you, yeah. So, you know, as a coach, I do a lot of the same stuff, and then when I'm hanging out with you in Montreal, I get your coaching and your, you know, a little different perspective, but a lot of the same stuff, and I'm like, oh shit, Jim's good. Jim knows what he's talking about. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your philosophy as a coach of entrepreneurs and how you get the best out of people?
So for me, I don't profess to be an expert. I'm learning so much as I go, and that's what I love. It's just like getting better and better and better. And I'm already better now than I was last month and the month before that, the month before that. So there's so much room to grow. But for me, it's about a couple of like core tenets, I suppose, are asking questions rather than telling. And that goes against my default because, you know, the idea of having one mouth and two ears, like that didn't exist in my family. There was, you know, everything's a competitive sport, including speaking. So, you know, going into that, that's a lot of a learned skill, is being able to ask a question, then just sit and listen to the answer. But for me, it's about people give you the symptom. They're not giving you the cause. They come to you with a symptom that they think it's the cause. They think, oh, you know, I'm kind of unhappy because I'm not earning enough money. And I know full well that's not the actual symptom. So we go behind that and then we go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So asking questions is huge, and then kind of and you'll do the same thing. You have an idea where you want it to go, and you want them to lead themselves to it. Because when somebody, especially males, especially when ego's at stake, if somebody suggests an idea to them that wasn't their own, you're going to have so much harder time selling it. And ultimately, when you're a coach, you're selling it. You're selling your suggestions. You're leading a horse to water, and you want to be able to have it actually drink.
Yes.
So if they lead themselves to it and it's their thought, then they're so much more open to accepting it and then running with it.
So a great strategy that I use is I'll tell a story, right? And they'll have an issue, and I'll tell a story about either somebody I worked with or just a story I know. And then they can put themselves in the story, and I don't have to coach them, right? They'll hear the story and be like, oh, that's what this person did. They see themselves in that person, right? They lead themselves there, and you're like, you know, ninja coaching them.
So yeah, there's two of you there, and then the story's up here, and then you're going vicariously, or they're going vicariously through that person, because that's okay then. It's not as the defenses are down and it's less, the stigma is less.
Yeah.
So they see themselves as that alter ego versus it being themselves, and that's that's really powerful.
So this coaching business, it's fulfilling for you. I know you're really good at it. You help people find their authentic voice, and it allows you to travel the world, right? And this is, most people listening to this are probably like, that's the lifestyle I want, right? They don't even know it's possible, and it's totally possible. So, yeah, I guess that's not really a question, but if you want to give any
Yeah, well, an exercise I get a few people to. I did this at a talk, the same event that you're at. Although you didn't turn up to my talk, thanks a lot. List the amount of jobs, especially if you've got a group of people, so you can get brainstorming. Give me a list of jobs that you can do remotely.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take long to rack up 15 or 20 jobs that people never considered are remote friendly. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to be a digital nomad. You don't have to like drop everything. You could just go to your employer and say, hey, I'm a bookkeeper, I'm an accountant, I'm a lawyer, I'm a social media marketer, I am a copywriter, I am a translator, millions of other things, and say, can I do this remotely? I'll start by just taking a day a week off. Then it becomes 2. Then, like, I'm living in a house now, there's 7 of us here. They've all got, there's a mix between entrepreneurs and employees. And the conference I was at last week, I spoke at an event here in Gran Canaria, and it's called Nomad City, and it's about remote work and pushing that. And there was guys there from Buffer, Google, Microsoft, Remote Year. It's not just the tech companies, and half the attendees were like, one of them's a HR consultancy company. She's got 16 employees all over the world. There's nobody in an office anywhere.
Cool.
So there's the possibilities are endless. So people will probably naturally put up a wall immediately listening to that question or non-question that you asked and said, no, it's not me, it's for other people. Just say, okay, is it though? If you're a physiotherapist, it's kind of hard to do that remotely. If you're a cleaner, it's kind of hard to do that remotely. But there's so many other ways you can go around it.
Yeah, and Rock always says there's always a way if you're creative and committed, right? And so
exactly.
The way
and if those scales are like that, then you're going to find a way to make it work, like I did. But if they're like this, you're never going to make that change.
It's all emotional, yeah. So I want to share a story. I know this is really your turn to talk, but I want to share a quick story I thought of, and I'm sure you know this story. But there's a businessman, a Wall Street businessman, who went to Mexico, and he went fishing with this fishing guide, and he had an amazing time. And the Wall Street guy goes, "Dude, you should get another boat so you can grow your business." And he goes, "Why would I do that?" And he goes, "Well, if you get another boat, then you can make more money. You can get a whole fleet of boats. Think about your business then." And the guy goes, "Okay, but why would I do that?" And he goes, "Well, then you can set up an international business, and you can corner the market on fish guide, on being a fish guide." And he goes, "You can just fish in the morning when you want, take it up in the afternoon, spend time with your family from building this big international business." And the guy goes, "I already do that." I don't think I told the story right, but the fisherman is basically living his dream life. He didn't need to build this huge business to do it, right? He's there now. He's enjoying the moment. And I know that's kind of a philosophy of yours, and something that, we talked about is you can go make your millions. Just most people go make their millions to try to live the lifestyle you're living, and you're already living it.
Yeah. I wish I could remember the quote or the sort of the idea that people ruin their health. They earn money at the expense of their health, and then the money they've earned from ruining their health, they spend to fix their health. Yeah. And then there's another component to that, but it's such a paradox, and that's why having that balanced lifestyle and doing something that you love to do is massive. And if you're not aligned with it, if you're spending the majority of your waking hours in a job, whether it's remote, whether it's your own business, or whether it's in an office, if you're not loving that, if you have to behave differently at work than you do at home, then that's going to be a big energy drain, and that's going to be most of your life, most of your working hours doing something you don't like. So, do something that you really enjoy, that makes the most of your talent, so that, if and when you are that guy on the fishing boat, you're not the one who's just like, yeah, but in 10 years, in another 5 years, because thankfully I had the benefit of hindsight. When I was a ski instructor in Whistler when I was 21, I was earning like $10 an hour, and my commute to work was on a chairlift. And I'd listen to my music on the chairlift on the way up, then I'd ski down to the other mountain, and I'd meet the group, we'd have a chat, then we'd ski, and then we'd go to the bar afterwards. It was textbook. It was absolutely, it was amazing, and the money was crap. It wasn't sustainable, but it gave me the perspective to. I was teaching people who were earning 100, 200, 1,000, 500,000 a year. They were hedge fund managers, they were stockbrokers. And they would spend the first 3 days of their holiday winding down. And then they'd spend the middle of the holiday enjoying themselves, and then they'd spend the next 3 days uptight about the fact they're about to go to work.
Yeah.
And they would so many people looking at me going, I would swap anything. I'd do anything to just swap places with you right now. So I had that programmed into me. I had those scales tipping early on, and that was huge for me because I was like, shit, you get 2-4 weeks off a year.
Right?
And so, like, I just did a post about this yesterday. What? 48 weeks to enjoy 4? That's surely should be the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. Terrible trade-off. Well, I hope you've brought some inspiration to some of my audience that they can go take steps to live the life that they dreamed about, and maybe they didn't even dream about it until they heard this conversation. But you're such an inspiring guy, and I hope everybody follows you. And I'm super glad you're speaking now. I know hopefully I had a little part in pushing you to speak more and get out and influence people.
You did indeed.
Because you're so impactful.
That means a lot. Thank you very much. And yeah, I hope I impacted some people either live or who are going to watch this later on, and at least have the conversation with yourself. Yeah. At least say, is this possible? Can I do it? And then how good would this actually be?
Yeah. So, all right, I got 2 last questions and I'll let you go. One is, what is your favorite book? What's the book that's had the biggest impact on you?
Okay, from a personal development point of view, it was the Miracle Morning in terms of getting a structure and habits in place. But from the thing that really sort of changed everything for me at the very beginning, made my whole brain shift gears in terms of the way I thought, was Rich Dad Poor Dad, just like it is for millions of others. Yeah. That and the 4-Hour Work Week were 2 really influential books. So they're all books that probably all of your audience already knows, but you know, they were huge at the very beginning for me to start just looking at things in a whole new lens, or through a whole new lens.
Yeah, all of those books were definitely super impactful for me as well. All right, last question. What has been the most impactful personal development event or experience that you've had?
Yes, I know this one. So I was in Australia. I was now at this point where I'm like, okay, this isn't going as I want. I'm lacking passion and fulfillment. So what do I do? So I started immersing myself in the entrepreneurial world, like the reading, the books, everything else I talked about before. And I went to a business seminar. It was a 2-day seminar in Perth in Australia, and it was amazing. I was like, the concept was amazing. It was a profile test. And this entrepreneur, he was a really forward-thinking entrepreneur. He talked about all these different ideas, and he has this profile test that people go through, and it gives them an idea of what their strengths are, their weaknesses, where they should fit. And it was way more impactful for me than anything else I'd done. So then at the end of the event, he's like, and if you want to learn more about this, I'm running a seminar in Bali, a business accelerator in Bali in 3 weeks, and you can come and get trained in it. And I was like, oh, okay. It was $3,000, which for me at the very beginning of my personal development journey was a big chunk of change to spend on something that was completely unknown. I was like, oh, am I now one of these sheep who at the back of seminar rooms just go and sign up to anything? I was like, oh my God, I've become all the people I never respected. And then I was like, no, sod it. What's the worst that can happen? Yeah. You know, that's a paycheck or 2. You get that back. Who gives a shit? So I did it, and that weekend, the people I spent time with then, because I had so much to learn then. The people I spent the time with in Bali, the conversations I had like probably 2 or 3 or 4 really big sort of light bulb mindset shift moments, which you know set me on my way. Then that's where I actually got the business concept idea from all those years ago. So that was awesome. Massive. Yeah. So anybody's on that ledge who's like, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? I've been on that ledge about 3 times, and every time it's been the best thing I've done. So make sure it's aligned first, and then just go with it. Yeah, it's just that one conversation, one event can shift everything, and that's why I go to those a lot, and I get a lot of distinctions, and my life keeps just taking these upturns, and amazing. We'll be back there again in Florida, won't we? In a couple of months' time. Yeah, I'm going to see you in a couple weeks. Yeah, that's super exciting. So we'll have to do a Facebook Live when we're together again. Yes, we will, in E's house. We'll get E on it as well. Yeah, for sure. Well, my man, it's so good to see you. Give your fiance Kim a big kiss for me, and you guys enjoy your day, and I will definitely share this all over my network and encourage people to follow you. Thank you very much, mate. It was great to be on here, and hopefully I helped some people out, and Always a delightful pleasure chatting to you.
Yes, you as well. You as well. All right, later, brother.
Cheers, bro. Talk to you later.